Social media seems to have become fertile ground for those who want to cultivate hate and hate speech based on race, religion and other social intolerances. But it seems that the media's role is a lot more important to govern these incidences, as we often jump to every isolated racist post, perhaps spreading the hate, fueling angry debates and causing further divides in our society that we've been trying to mend since the end of apartheid. Now, I'm joined in studio by Media Monitoring Africa's William Bird. William, very good morning to you. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
That was a mouthful that I just put forward there, but week after week we have new incidences of hate speech, intolerance, out-and-out racism, and we seem to give these incidences pride of place in South Africa's media. Should we be doing this?
So the short answer is yes. I think that racism still is alive and well in South Africa. We've got a significant way to go to dealing with it, to making sure that we build the kind of society we envisaged in our constitution. That said, I think that we need to be a lot more careful about the way we do choose to expose these things, because as you do point out, you know, merely repeating hatred doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't help us address it, and it certainly doesn't help you combat it. You know, so one of the things that your previous guest was talking about, these hearings, these things are important because you need to look at mechanisms that are going to actively solve these things. So it's easy to vent and to spew anger and hatred and, you know, all sorts of issues at people that have racist memes and whatever. But the question is what are you going to do about those things? And critically, what do you do with those people in order to get them to see that what they're doing is actually so profoundly wrong and not acceptable in the South African society?
This whole scenario, as it plays out on social media now, often I hear, oh no, this is just the age of social media, we have to accept it. You're the expert in this space. Is it as simple as that? We must just accept this is the age of fake news and bigotry platforms?
And Donald Trump, yeah, look, so I think, and that's, you know, I said it in jest, but that's one of the key shifts that we've already seen in 2017. When you've got a president who talks about things with a level that fuels this idea that rationality doesn't apply, that science, evidence, all of these things don't matter, that poses significant challenges for us, you know. So you've got to say, well, how do we address racism? You need to make sure that you address it in a way that offers context, that provides evidence. So it's easy, for example, to just go down and say, well, because of this incident, all whites are racist. Yeah. Because of this incident, you know, it's clear that white monopoly capital runs, you know, determines everything. Neither of these things are tested as fact, and neither of these things are accurate, and none of them are true. And the moment you start operating off a basis where you don't have evidence, you don't have any reliable research to support your conclusions, you're going to have big problems.
Does this kind of thing still sell newspapers, and does it still sell column space, or is it a scenario that we have agendas in our media in South Africa, and these kind of incidences just so easily fit within those agendas?
So I think that some of these things are dovetailing into some of those agendas that we do see. Yeah. And I think it's a sad indictment of our media that those kinds of fractures are becoming more and more clear, where you've got some media that will choose particular lines around racism in order to support a particular political agenda, and others simply won't, you know. And I think, again, it calls into question the value and role of what the media are. And certainly as a public broadcaster, the SABC must make sure that it puts forward a diversity of views. But saying a diversity of views means that doesn't mean that just because a person's a fruitcake, you want them on air. You want people that actually are able to offer and support their claims with evidence and a rational basis for thinking. Those that can't, those that just come on and spew the same kind of nonsense, you know, doing that just fuels that kind of misinformation.
Now, this week, the Human Rights Commission, they're having specific hearings on racism on social media, and they're trying for us all to engage. Do you think that we're heading into a future where social media racists should be dealt with specifically by one organization, and rehabilitation and social cohesion programs should be the punishment, maybe instead of the monetary ones that we see now?
I think it has to be on a scale, depending on the grievance and on the alleged offence. So someone that makes particularly overtly racist comments is going to need to be dealt with, as opposed to someone who might just suggest something that could be interpreted or is linked to a racist idea. And you need different approaches with different people, because certainly a young person might tweet something without necessarily knowing that it's racist. Then you're not just going to want to go and say, oh, jail to you. You want to make sure that you have some kind of rehabilitation program. You want to make sure that you educate people about these things. So who deals with these things? Well, it depends, because you don't always want the criminal justice system to intervene with absolutely everything, because for one thing, it's already overburdened. You rather want to be looking at how we can try and build the society that we want to live in. So it's fitting, actually, that we're doing this, and that just before our insert, we were talking about 100 years of Nelson Mandela. These things, this is about someone who had a very clear and unambiguous position on racism. Nelson Mandela didn't allow for that kind of an approach.
In conclusion, as society, as individuals, as good citizens, if you like, are we heading into an age of where we have to be activists on social media and kind of deal with these things in a more sort of, I don't know, activist kind of way? Not just police it, but also try and help to spread the tolerance message, if one can call it that.
Yeah, so look, if you want to, the thing with the internet is, if you want to find stories about complete fruitcakes, who believe in chickens coming and invading the earth, you will find a group of people like that on the internet.
Yeah, that is true.
The thing is, what value does that offer, right? And similarly, if you look for racists, you'll find them. So, as you said, the best way of combating bad content is through good content. And I don't think that we place nearly enough emphasis on producing good content that challenges racism, content that shows where these things are where these barriers are being broken down, where things work, and every now and then you get TV programs that do that, where they show people's thinking that has shifted significantly from where we were 20 years ago.
Well, I can vouch for that. Thinking has shifted significantly in South Africa, but unfortunately at times it's the bigots and the racists that get pride of place, not just in our media, but it seems everywhere. But William, thanks for coming in today. Media Monitoring Africa's William Bird. Of course, we're talking about racism in social media.